In the raw landscapes of the American West, two fierce tribes, the Apache and the Comanche, faced each other in a relentless struggle, marked by courage, cunning, and a quest to rule the land. No tanks or drones here, just raw human bravery. With Spanish conquerors in the mix, this story's got twists and turns you won't believe. Welcome to Wild History. Alright, let's turn the clock back a bit and set the stage for this fierce rivalry. Picture vast landscapes, wild buffalo, and territory ripe for the taking. This is where our story heats up. The Apache, a tribe tough as nails, were the original big shots of this region. They had their hands on the best hunting grounds and some pretty impressive agricultural spaces. Life was good. They were living the dream. But hold on, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. The Comanche were right around the corner, eyeing some of those same lands, longing for a piece of that Apache pie. They weren't going to settle for scraps, and that's where the friction started. Territory, resources, and some deeply rooted cultural differences turned these two tribes from neighbors to fierce rivals. Imagine living next door to someone, but instead of arguing over the fence's height, you're locking horns over thousands of square miles of wild and untamed land. The Apache had the upper hand at first, with experience and a strong hold on the region. They were the kings of the castle, but every king has challengers, and the Comanche were gearing up. As the Apache roamed in their dominated lands, a new storm was brewing on the horizon. A once overshadowed tribe, the Comanche, stumbled upon a remarkable discovery: the horse. This was no ordinary revelation. It was a key that unlocked new levels of power and strategy. The Comanche, once considered weak and unimpressive, were about to ride into history as formidable warriors. The horse became their trusted partner, a symbol of agility, strength, and freedom. They didn't just ride horses, they danced with them, mastering a breathtaking form of artistry in an unparalleled battle. But it wasn't only their ability to ride that set them apart. The Comanche went a step further, breeding horses, understanding their needs, and transforming them into the ultimate war machines. They even used them as currency, amassing wealth that reflected their rising status. While the Apache were predictable in their tactics, the Comanche were writing a new playbook. Their approach was unconventional, their movements swift, their strategies relentless. They attacked from unexpected angles, leaning sideways on their horses for cover, while firing arrows with a surgeon's precision. The Comanche's rise was not just a transformation. It was a revolution that turned the tables. They were no longer the prey. They were the predators, and the Apache were in their sights. The storm had arrived, and the plains were about to witness a war like no other. With the landscape set, the stage was now ready for the decisive encounters that would etch their names in the annals of history. The Comanche-Apache warfare lasted for more than 100 years and involved many battles, raids, skirmishes, and massacres. The loathing between these tribes ran deep. Their names for each other were visceral reminders of the hatred that fueled their conflict. The battles were fierce and brutal, spanning diverse terrains and challenging the tribe's unique skills. The Comanches, unmatched horsemen that they were, dominated the open plains, their horses galloping like wild storms, their arrows flying true. They were an unstoppable force, their conquest eating up territory that once belonged to the Plains Apaches. But victory didn't always favor the Comanches. The Apaches held their own in the rugged hills and mountains. Their intimate knowledge of the terrain gave them an upper hand, turning the tables on the plains' dominant Comanches. Their strategy was simple: lure the Comanches into their terrain and strike. The Comanches had their strength, but they couldn't compete with the Apaches in the canyons and mountains. If they could catch us in the open, we were done for, but usually we could lead them into canyons, where we took what they had, a Chiricahua Apache recounted. The battles took a toll, stripping the tribes of many warriors and leaders. Comanche chiefs Bajo El Sol and Yellow Wolf lost their lives in battles against the Apaches, underscoring the severity of the conflicts. Yet, despite these losses, the Comanches maintained a degree of organization and discipline that was a formidable challenge for the Apaches. Interestingly, the Comanches' victory over the eastern Apaches wasn't because of superior weaponry or more horses, as it is often assumed. According to historian Charles L. Kenner, the Apaches' downfall came from their social structure and way of life. The Apaches lived in small, isolated farming communities that were easy targets for the Comanches' surprise attacks. Their counterattacks failed because the Comanches, a tight-knit group, were difficult to locate and combat. The Apaches' half-hearted adaptation to the plains lifestyle also made them vulnerable. Their settlements, where they farmed maize, beans, pumpkins, and watermelons, were sitting ducks for Comanche raids. Each battle was a ripple in the fabric of history, marking the slow, steady shifts in power and dominance. With each successful raid, the Comanches grew stronger and the Apaches weaker, observed Jeffrey D. Carlisle. As the dust of countless battles between the Apache and Comanche tribes settled, a new player entered the arena, the Spaniards. Their arrival marked the beginning of an era steeped in complex political maneuvering, shrewd alliances, and monumental betrayals. It was a time of shifting loyalties, and the balance of power was set on a knife edge. The Apaches had been steadily losing ground to the Comanche. Their territory was shrinking, and their resources were depleting. The tide of the war was not in their favor, and in a desperate bid for survival, they turned to the Spanish. The Spanish represented a lifeline, a chance to regain their strength and fight back against the relentless Comanche onslaught. The historical records of the mid-1700s tell a tale of a hot summer day in San Antonio, Texas. 4 Apache chiefs, their hearts heavy with the weight of their tribe's survival, met with Spanish missionaries. In a symbolic gesture, they laid down their weapons and buried the hatchet. This was the Apaches' desperate gamble, their hope pinned on the promise of Spanish protection. Unfortunately, peace was elusive. Not all Apache tribes were a part of this treaty, and the aggression of the Europeans and their descendants continued unabated. The Apache found themselves caught in a whirlwind of conflicts with other Native American tribes and settlers, including the Mexicans and eventually the Americans. One famous Apache leader, Geronimo, stands as a testament to their struggle, fighting till the end to protect his people's land. Parallel to the Apache struggle, the Spanish were simultaneously navigating their relations with the Comanche. After years of mediation, Juan Bautista de Anza, the governor of New Mexico, sought to negotiate peace with several Comanche bands. The efforts were not without hurdles, as opposition from the Comanche leader Toro Blanco posed a significant challenge. The deadlock was eventually broken by a pro-peace faction who assassinated Toro Blanco. In February 1786, Iquera Capa, a Comanche chief, arrived in Santa Fe to finalize a treaty with Governor Anza. The Spaniards promised free access to New Mexican markets and trade fairs. In exchange, the Comanche pledged to cease their raids, unite under a chief who would negotiate with the Spanish, and refrain from trading with foreigners, especially Americans. This treaty also led to a joint Comanche-Spanish war against the Lipan Apaches, who were seen as a common enemy. This turning point in the Southern Plains history was a double-edged sword. It fostered a period of relative peace from 1786 to 1821 between the Comanche and the New Mexicans. However, it had disastrous consequences for the Lipan Apaches, who were soon forced to retreat by the powerful Comanche-Spanish alliance. Despite the peace, the Comanches' conflicts with Texas continued throughout the Spanish era. The 1785 Comanche-Texan Treaty had increased trade, but consistent Comanche raids kept the area on a constant war footing due to the Providence's officials' lack of funds to maintain a consistent Indian policy. In the grand chessboard of this era, the Apache and the Comanche were the central players, with the Spanish as the influential kingmakers. The Apache, once the dominant tribe in the region, saw their influence and power wane. Their decisions, often born out of desperation, gradually led to their decline. On the other hand, the Comanche adapted and capitalized on the political changes, leveraging their alliances to maintain their dominance. Today, various Apache tribes inhabit the southwestern United States, while the majority of the Comanche reside in Oklahoma and continue to preserve their rich cultural heritage, ensuring that the stories of their ancestors are not forgotten.